everybody got really excited about Jevons Paradox because of the efficiency of AI models, the theory that as they get more efficient, consumption goes up. But there's an equal amount of Jevons Paradox of all of the applied use cases of AI, and so that gets you closer to then the human labor side, which is if you just think about like most markets on the planet, I would argue are sort of smaller than they should be. If the cost of delivering the service was cheaper, you would have Jevons Paradox for almost every domain in the world. Like, and let's take a very easy one. If healthcare was cheaper, we'd probably consume it more. Like my biggest hurdle to seeing a doctor is just it's a nightmare to just like even get a date on the calendar to see anybody. And so just think about all of the things if you could increase the productivity of that particular category, which is an inverse or a corollary to lowering the cost of delivering that thing or making it more available or making it more accessible, would the consumption of that category go up? And I think there's not a lot of markets that are kind of at this perfect saturation level of what the potential demand is. And we saw this in I think in modern tech, we saw this, let's say in Uber as an example. There was this really funny article that some economist wrote like 15 years ago about Uber that was like the best case scenario is this takes like half the taxi revenue and it's like a $5 billion business or something. And like what the guy like obviously totally missed the forest from the trees is if you just make Uber, and liquidity of a taxi service 100 times more efficient, the market actually goes up by it, let's say, 100x. And he couldn't kind of quite process that. But we're doing the same thing over and over again in AI, where we're sort of thinking like, oh, wow, we made this thing way more efficient. That means it's going to compress the size of that market. When actually what it will mean is to your exact point, all of the people on the planet that have really bad design right now, they'll have some entrepreneurial, some high ingenuity person going and saying, okay, now I can actually do better design for the first time ever because it's affordable to do great design for this small bakery that would never have hired a designer. They never would have thought even to make their website look good, but now it's actually affordable to do so. And so I think that's actually going to play out, many, many times over in AI. There'll be some categories where we are at sort of equilibrium of sort of supply and demand. But I'd argue most categories are this is not the case. Even as an example, taking like another knowledge workspace, let's say, there's a lot of AI startups doing legal work, AI for lawyers. And, one theory is, okay, wow, is it a really bad time to be a lawyer? On the other hand, if you make it much more accessible to now ask a question that's a legal question, I'm still going to follow up and say, okay, can you paper this now as a contract, or can you just give me a little bit extra advice? But we've lowered the barrier to now getting access to even thinking about what is the legal
Yeah.
implication for a particular thing that then grows the demand of that space. And even in the category of, let's say, internal legal work at a company, if I could make it so we could review contracts faster with customers that we're going back and forth on, I'm not going to have fewer lawyers in the company. We're going to actually just have higher throughput of our deal review process. So there's a lot of these areas where you're just going to actually see an increase in demand of the overall category as AI comes and drives productivity in these spaces.